So what the heck is going on in the real estate industry, right? So you've probably been reading headlines and you've probably been hearing things like realtors' commissions are going to decrease by 50%, prices of homes are going to tank, it's going to, either, depending on who you listen to, it's either going to benefit everybody or it's going to throw the economy into a tailspin, realtors are going to lose their jobs. There's a lot of confusion and a lot of doom and gloom, and then some bright spots as well. But it's all very mixed, and it all depends on who you're listening to and who you're talking to. And I think the important thing as a buyer or a seller, or even a realtor if you're listening to this, is to know that nothing has been settled yet. It is a proposed settlement that still needs to be approved. And that's not going to happen probably for like a month or 2 or 3 months. And if everything does get approved, then the effects will take place in July. So the main things that will happen in the settlement is that MLSs will not be able to offer a cooperating commission to the buyer's agent. So right now, and this gets a little technical and depends on who you talk to again. So basically, the way that commissions tend to work right now is that a seller has a listing contract with a broker, not with an agent, with a broker. And then that broker chooses to take a percentage of that listing commission, that listing fee, and share it with a cooperating broker, a buyer's agent's broker. Again, not the buyer's agents. The agents don't get paid directly, their brokers get paid, and then we get a split from that. So that's typically how it works. Now, it's interesting because everybody says the seller pays the buyer's agent's commission. What actually happens is most times is that the seller bakes into the price of the listing the cost of their listing fee. Not the cost of the listing fee plus the buyer's broker commission. It's the cost of the listing fee that again is shared. So that's where some of the distinction is that's a little bit confusing. So because they add that into the cost, it comes out on the line item on the settlement statement from the seller's side. It's a listing fee. So that listing fee, if the listing broker did not choose to offer a commission to the buyer's agent, that whole fee would be one line item on the settlement statement. But because they choose to offer a cooperating commission to the buyer's broker, then it becomes 2 line items on the seller's side, which makes it look like the seller is paying the buyer's broker's fee. But they're not. They're paying their listing broker, and the listing broker is sharing that with the cooperating broker, the buyer's broker. So that's where the confusion is. The complaint is that the buyers are not able to negotiate that cooperating broker commission. So the buyers don't negotiate with the listing broker on how much their buyer's broker is going to receive. And that's part of the complaint. And that's true. Commissions are negotiable, but it hasn't been a common practice for buyers to try to negotiate that. So now what's going to happen is that the listing brokers will no longer share the commission or will no longer advertise a shared commission on the MLS with the buyer's broker. So then the buyer now needs to have a discussion with their agent and as a representative of their broker about how that buyer's agent is going to get paid. Realtors are one of the, if not the only industry where we wake up every morning, we do our jobs, we help our clients, we market, we prospect, we follow up, we spend hours taking people to go see homes, driving all over the place, without any guarantee of compensation. Every day we do this. Every day that we are working, we do this, never knowing if we're going to get paid. So a buyer now needs to negotiate with their broker about how they're going to compensate their broker for their time. And that's where things get a little bit tricky going forward. So some people feel like that's a great thing, and some people feel like that's not a great thing. It depends on where in the spectrum of a home buyer you are. If you're potentially a first-time home buyer, if you are a lower income home buyer, if you are a home buyer that does not have a lot of savings, trying to figure out how you're going to pay for your down payment, which is typically a minimum 3.5%, plus your closing costs, and now your buyer's agent on top of that, can be a little bit tricky for a first-time home buyer. Now, there are different discussions on what agents can do and what they can negotiate to try to help offset some of those costs, but that's all going to be dependent on what happens. So that's one thing. So the shared cooperating commission is no longer going to be a field on the MLS that a buyer's broker or buyer's agent can see what it is they're going to be receiving as a shared cooperating commission. That goes away. So then the other thing that needs to happen is that every buyer will be signing an agreement, a contract with their buyer's agent about what their compensation will be. And that needs to be in writing. It can't be a generic number dependent upon whatever the offer is. It has to be an actual percentage or fee. And then that now becomes a contract between the buyer and their buyer's agent, the buyer's broker, which is good. Because when we have a contract with our buyer, we now have the ability to add to the level of service that we can provide. They are now a client versus a customer. And there's a distinction in the fiduciary responsibilities we have to a client and the way that we assist a client over a consumer, a customer. So that's a good thing. Indiana, so I'm licensed, as you know, in Kentucky and Indiana. Indiana has already put into place a law that says that all buyers must sign an exclusive buyer's agency agreement with their buyer's broker, and that takes effect July 1st, and that was actually put into place on March 11th. So before this proposed settlement agreement ever even happened. So Indiana's a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to that part of it. But I think the most important thing to know is that things have not changed. Right now, lenders need to figure out there's a way where they're going to be able to finance potentially the agent's commission, if that's something that can be rolled into the financing. Appraisers are going to have to figure out how are they going to do comparable sales for previous listings that offered a cooperating commission, because now those prices are potentially higher than what the market will move toward with only a listing agent fee and not sharing that cooperating commission. So those are some other industry changes and practices that may happen. And of course, all of this is going to take some time to figure out. The most important thing is find a realtor who you trust, find a realtor who is keeping up with what's going on, and find a realtor that you feel comfortable having these discussions with and will tell you the truth. That is the most important thing, so that they can walk you through all these different changes and let you know the best way that you can position yourself as a buyer in a market like Louisville that is still a very tight market with low inventory and multiple bids on many homes, or as a seller to help you maximize your value when you're getting ready to sell your home. That may mean doing more things to prepare the home to get ready to sell and list versus simply just putting it on the MLS and seeing what happens. But that's another discussion. So the question that I have, hopefully you can answer in the comments below, is what do you think about this? How do you feel about what you've heard so far? And do you have any questions that I can try to answer for you? I'm always available. Send me a DM, call me. Thanks.